You didn't grow up with a razor. You grew up watching your mother pull a strip of hardened sugar paste off her leg, wincing, laughing, doing it again. For most of human history, that scene, some version of it, happened in every household on Earth. No blades, no plastic cartridges, no five-blade marketing gimmick. Just hands, tools, and pain, repeated for tens of thousands of years. Modern people spend an estimated 72 days of their life shaving. That's over 2 months of your existence spent dragging metal across skin. But metal razors, the ones you and I use, are shockingly recent. For most of the last 100,000 years, humans removed hair without a single blade of steel. So what did they actually use? The answer is stranger, more painful, and more ingenious than you'd expect. Let's start with the oldest evidence we have. In caves across Europe, archaeologists have found clamshells and flint flakes worn smooth on one edge, dated to tens of thousands of years before metalworking existed. Anthropologists studying these tools believe our ancestors used sharpened shells as crude tweezers, pinching them together to yank hair out strand by strand. Not because it was comfortable, because a face without hair meant less frostbite, less lice, less infection when a wound needed tending. Beauty wasn't the point. Survival was. Here's the important part. Once humans started working with stone, hair removal got a serious upgrade. Obsidian, volcanic glass, breaks into edges sharper than surgical steel, sharper than anything a modern factory can produce. Archaeologists working in Egypt and Mesopotamia have recovered obsidian and flint blades from burial sites dating back roughly 5,000 years, worn smooth exactly where a hand would grip them. These weren't weapons. They were razors, and the technique wasn't far off from what you'd do with a disposable blade today, minus the shaving cream. Now some of you are thinking, sure, but that's cutting. What about actual smoothness? The kind you'd want on your legs or face? Fair question, and the answer takes us to Egypt again. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing around 440 BCE, documented that Egyptian priests shaved their entire bodies every single day, head to toe, because they believed body hair was unclean in the presence of the gods. Archaeologists have recovered bronze razors from Egyptian tombs, including some buried alongside Tutankhamun, proof that hair removal wasn't a personal quirk. It was religious law enforced with metal tools centuries before Rome existed. Here's what's fascinating. The Egyptians didn't stop at blades. They invented sugaring, a technique still used today in salons that market it as a natural alternative. The method is almost identical to what it was 4,000 years ago. Heat, sugar, water, and lemon juice into a thick paste, spread it against the grain of the hair, press a strip of cloth over it, then rip it off in one motion, pulling the hair out by the root instead of cutting it at the surface. Popular historical accounts credit Cleopatra herself with using this exact method to remove every trace of body hair, a practice so normalized that hairlessness became a mark of status, wealth, and cleanliness across the ancient Mediterranean. Then there's threading, a technique that likely originated in Persia or ancient India thousands of years ago and is still practiced by hand in salons across the world today. 2 twisted strands of cotton thread, rolled against the skin, trap individual hairs and pluck them out at the follicle. No chemicals, no blades, just tension and precision. Archival Persian miniature paintings from centuries ago depict women performing this exact technique on each other's faces, meaning the tool set required was nothing more than string and steady hands, something any household could produce without a single piece of metal. And here's the key detail most people miss. Tweezers weren't a modern invention either. Archaeologists have recovered bronze tweezers from Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and Roman sites. Tiny pincer tools nearly identical in shape to the ones sitting in your bathroom drawer right now. Roman writers, including Pliny the Elder, documented the use of pumice stone, a lightweight volcanic rock, rubbed directly against the skin to wear hair down at the surface. It wasn't precise, it wasn't gentle, but it worked well enough that Roman bathhouses reportedly kept pumice on hand as a standard grooming tool, alongside oils and scrapers used to clean the skin after bathing. So, let's reconstruct a morning. You're a woman in ancient Egypt, somewhere around 1300 BCE. You wake before the heat sets in. A servant, or maybe your sister, heats a small pot of sugar paste over the coals until it turns amber and thick. You sit outside, legs stretched in the early light. The paste goes on warm, spread carefully against the direction of hair growth. A strip of linen presses down over it. Then, in one sharp pull, It's gone, root and all, and you clench your jaw and say nothing, because this is simply what mornings look like. Afterward, tweezers come out for anything the sugar missed, fine hairs above the lip, stray strands along the hairline. By midday, your skin is smooth, and nobody in your household thinks twice about the process, because everybody's morning looked exactly like this. Then, something changed. Around 1770, French barber Jean-Jacques Perret designed the first straight razor built specifically for safety, a metal guard running along one edge of the blade to keep it from slicing too deep. But the real turning point came in 1901, when King Camp Gillette patented the disposable safety razor, a cheap blade you could throw away instead of sharpening. Within a few decades, razors went from a barber's specialized tool to a mass-produced object sitting in every drugstore in America. Hair removal, which had been a communal, ritualized, often painful process, passed between mothers and daughters, sisters and friends, suddenly became something you did alone, in under a minute, in front of a bathroom mirror. And here's what got lost in that transition. For thousands of years, hair removal wasn't just a chore. It was social time. Women gathered to apply sugar paste to each other's legs. Threading was performed face to face, close enough to talk, to gossip, to laugh when someone flinched. Tweezing was slow enough that it happened during conversation, not instead of it. The process took time, and that time was filled with other people. When the disposable razor arrived, efficiency won, and the ritual disappeared along with it. You reach for a plastic cartridge, drag it across your skin in 90 seconds, and move on with your day. Your ancestors heated sugar over a fire, sat with someone they trusted, and endured real pain together, because that was simply what the morning required. You buy a 12-pack of razors online and never think about where the blade came from. They pressed obsidian against their own skin, sharper than anything you'll ever touch, and called it ordinary. You do it in isolation, staring at your own reflection. They did it surrounded by people, hands other than their own doing the work. We traded a shared ritual for private efficiency, connection for convenience, and pain endured together for pain nobody has to think about anymore. The tools got faster, the people doing it got lonelier.